The city never truly slept, it just learned how to breathe quietly after midnight. Streetlights flickered like tired eyes, casting pale halos over cracked pavements and rain-slick alleys. In those hours, when decent people locked their doors and pulled their curtains shut, he stepped out like he owned every shadow. They called him many things, but never to his face. To some, he was a provider. To others, a ghost. But to those who understood the rules of the streets, he was something far more dangerous, a man who didn't need to shout to be feared. He moved with purpose, slow and controlled, his hood low, his eyes always scanning. Every corner, every passing car, every figure lingering too long, it all registered. Not paranoia. Survival. The kind built over years of watching people disappear for making one wrong assumption. Everything clean? A voice asked from the darkness near a shuttered shop. He didn't look directly. It's always clean, he replied quietly. A figure stepped forward, young, nervous, still new to this life. The kind that hadn't yet learned that fear could get you killed faster than greed. You sure no one's been asking questions? The young man pressed. Now he looked at him. Just for a second. Cold. Measured. If they were, he said, you wouldn't be here asking me. The message landed. The young man swallowed, nodding quickly, stepping back into silence. Respect wasn't given to him. It was enforced. He continued walking, his route never the same twice. A left turn where he usually went right. A pause where he normally wouldn't stop. Small changes, unpredictable patterns. Because the ones who got comfortable were the ones who got buried. Still, something felt off. It wasn't obvious. Not enough to panic. But enough to notice. A car passed him slower than necessary. Tinted windows. No music. No faces visible. His jaw tightened slightly. He kept walking. Further down the road, a flicker of movement caught his eye, a silhouette disappearing into an alley just a second too late. Watching. Waiting. Or maybe just hiding. He didn't chase. Chasing meant reacting. And reacting meant losing control. Instead, he reached the corner and paused under a dim light, pretending to check his phone. His reflection in the dark screen showed the empty street behind him. Empty, but not safe. His mind began piecing it together. The missed call earlier. The delayed drop-off. That nervous energy in his crew tonight, it wasn't random. Someone knew something. And that meant someone had talked. Back at his flat, the silence felt heavier than usual. No music. No television. Just the faint hum of the city leaking through the windows. He locked the door. Then checked it again. A habit. Or maybe a warning to himself. He poured a drink but didn't touch it. Instead, he stood by the window, watching the street below like it might answer questions he hadn't fully formed yet. Trust was a currency he didn't deal in anymore. Not after the last time. A vibration broke the silence. His phone. He glanced down. Unknown number. For a moment, he didn't move. Then it buzzed again. Persistent. Deliberate. He answered, slowly bringing it to his ear. Yeah. A pause. Then a voice. Calm. Cold. Unfamiliar. You've been doing well for yourself, it said. His eyes narrowed slightly. Who's this? Another pause. Then. You know what this is. His grip on the phone tightened. A faint sound echoed through the line. Not static. Not noise. Breathing. More than one person. His expression changed. Not fear. Something deeper. Recognition. And in that moment, standing alone in the dim light of his flat, the man who owned the night realized something he hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't in control anymore. The line stayed open. Waiting. Watching. Just like whoever had been following him in the dark. And for the first time in years, he didn't speak. The silence on the line stretched just long enough to feel intentional. Not hesitation. Control. Whoever was on the other end wasn't rushing. They didn't need to. He finally spoke, voice low, steady. Say what you called for. A faint chuckle slipped through. Not loud, not mocking, just confident. Straight to it. Good. That's why you've lasted this long. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. We'll keep it simple, the voice continued. You've been earning in our territory without paying dues. That's a problem. His eyes narrowed. Your territory? Another pause. Then, sharper this time, don't play dumb. You know exactly what this is. He did. A tax raid. Not new. Not rare. Crews did it all the time, targeting independent dealers, forcing them to pay for protection or wiping them out if they refused. It was brutal, but predictable. This wasn't predictable. Who sent you? He asked. You're asking the wrong question, the voice replied calmly. The right question is, how much is your life worth to you? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved toward the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to scan the street below. Still quiet. Still empty. Too empty. You've got 48 hours, the voice continued. We'll send instructions. You pay, you keep breathing. You don't. A soft exhale followed. Well, you already know how that ends. A faint sound echoed again. Movement, maybe voices in the background. Organized. Coordinated. Not random. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. No, the voice replied. The mistake was thinking no one was watching. The line went dead. He lowered the phone slowly, his reflection staring back at him through the glass. For a moment, the room felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were closing in with every passing second. This wasn't just pressure. This was precision. They knew him. Not just his name or his face, but his movements, his habits. The way they spoke, the confidence in their tone, it wasn't guesswork. It was information. And information only came from one place. Inside. His mind started moving fast, pulling pieces together, replaying the last few weeks. Small things. Things he had ignored at the time. A delayed pickup. A missed check-in. A location that had been too quiet. Then came the memory, sharp, unwelcome. A warehouse. Months ago. A deal that nearly went wrong. He had been there with two others, men he had trusted enough to stand beside him when things got tense. One of them had hesitated that night. Just for a second. Long enough to notice. Something off? He had asked back then. The man had shaken his head quickly. No, just, thought I saw someone. There was no one. Or at least, that's what they believed. Now, standing in the dim light of his flat, that moment felt different. He could see it clearer. The hesitation. The glance. The unease that hadn't matched the situation. Not fear. Guilt. He exhaled slowly, running a hand over his face. Loyalty on the streets was never permanent. It shifted, cracked, broke under pressure. But betrayal like this. It wasn't spontaneous. It was planned. Carefully. He moved away from the window, pacing the room now. Every step measured, controlled, but faster than before. His mind was racing ahead, mapping possibilities, narrowing names. Who knew his roots? Who knew his timings? Who knew enough to make this personal? Faces came and went in his thoughts. Some he dismissed immediately. Others lingered a second longer than they should have. And then one stayed. He stopped walking. The room went still again. No, he muttered under his breath, but even as he said it, the doubt was already settling in. It made too much sense. The access. The trust. The proximity. He looked down at his phone, gripping it tighter now, as if the answer might still be hiding inside it. You've been doing well for yourself. The voice echoed in his head again. Not just watching. Tracking. Studying. Someone had been feeding them everything. He closed his eyes for a brief second, then opened them. Colder now, sharper. 48 hours, he whispered. Enough time to confirm it. Enough time to decide what to do. But deep down, he already knew. Because betrayal had a pattern. And he had seen it before. His lips parted slightly as the realization settled fully into place. A single name slipped out, barely louder than a breath. Cain. The word hung in the air like a loaded gun. And somewhere out there, whether guilty or not, Cain was already moving. Cain. The name didn't sit right, but it didn't leave either. By morning, the city had returned to its usual noise, but something underneath it felt different. Like a frequency only he could hear. Every sound sharper. Every movement heavier with meaning. He didn't waste time. If someone inside had opened the door to a tax raid, then the truth wouldn't come from thinking, it would come from watching. One by one. He chose the garage first. Neutral ground. No cameras. No interruptions. Just concrete, silence, and whatever truth people were hiding behind their faces. Dre arrived first. Always early. Always composed. He leaned against the bonnet of a car, arms folded, expression unreadable. "You called," Dre said. "Yeah," he replied, stepping closer. "You've been quiet." Dre shrugged. Nothing to say. "A lie. Small, but obvious. You missed 2 check-ins," he said. "Phone died." Another lie. Silence stretched between them. Dre didn't flinch, but he didn't hold eye contact either. Just for a second, his gaze dropped. Not fear. Avoidance. He filed it away. "Stay close today," he said finally. "Things might move fast." Dre nodded once. No questions. That was the problem. Next came Malik. Different energy entirely. Restless. Eyes moving too much, like he was already thinking about leaving before anything even started. "You look stressed," Malik said with a half smile. "Do I?" he replied. "Yeah. Something going on." He studied him carefully. Malik was always like this, talkative, curious. But today there was an edge to it. Like he was fishing for something. "Just business," he said. Malik nodded, but too quickly. "Yeah, business." His phone buzzed in his hand. Malik glanced down, then turned the screen away slightly before reading. Subtle. Too subtle. "Everything good?" he asked. "Yeah. Just, nothing important." Another lie. They all lied. But today, the lies felt connected. The last one to arrive was Kane. Right on time. "Of course. You sounded serious," Kane said, walking in like nothing had changed. Calm. Controlled. The same way he always was. Too calm. "You hear anything?" he asked, watching him closely. Kane shook his head. "About what?" "Don't play that," he said, voice sharpening. "People are asking questions. Moves are getting watched." Kane frowned slightly, like he was processing it. "That's normal. You're growing. Attention comes with it." "Not like this." A pause. Then Kane stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think someone's talking?" There it was. Not denial. Not surprise. Just confirmation of the idea. "I think someone already did," he replied. The temperature in the room shifted instantly. Malik scoffed. "Come on, man. No one here would do that." "Wouldn't they?" he shot back. Dre stayed silent. Kane didn't move. "You're overthinking," Malik continued, a little louder now. "This is pressure getting to you." "No," he said, stepping forward. "What's getting to me is how clean this feels. How precise." He looked between them. They know too much. Silence again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then Kane spoke, slower this time. "So what? Now we start accusing each other." "If that's what it takes," he replied coldly. Malik shook his head, frustration rising. "This is exactly how things fall apart. You start pointing fingers, and suddenly there's no trust left." "There is no trust left," he said. The words landed hard. Dre finally looked up. Kane's jaw tightened slightly. Malik let out a breath, running a hand through his hair. "So what now? We just wait for someone to admit it." "No," he said quietly. "We watch. And when they slip." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The room felt smaller now. Not a crew anymore. Just suspects. After they left, one by one, the silence returned. But it wasn't empty. It was loud with everything unsaid. He stayed behind, scanning the space slowly. Every corner. Every surface. Then something caught his eye. A phone. Left behind. Malik's. He picked it up, turning it over in his hand. Locked. Of course. But the screen lit up briefly, just enough. A notification. No name. Just a number. And a message. He suspects it. Move faster. His expression darkened instantly. Not doubt anymore. Not instinct. Proof. Someone inside hadn't just talked. They were still talking. And now, they were running out of time. They were running out of time. The message burned into his mind long after the screen went dark. He suspects it. Move faster. Not just betrayal, coordination. Someone wasn't panicking. Someone was adjusting. Which meant someone felt protected. He left the garage without a word, Malik's phone still in his pocket. The air outside felt heavier now, like the city itself was pressing down on him. Every passing face, every distant engine, nothing felt neutral anymore. There was only one place left to go. He hadn't planned to see her again. Not after the way things ended. Not after what she knew. But now, what she knew might be the only thing keeping him alive. Her building stood quiet, tucked between rows of dim-lit flats, the kind of place people avoided asking questions about. He climbed the stairs slowly, each step echoing just enough to remind him he was exposed. When he reached the door, he hesitated. Not out of fear. Out of memory. Then he knocked. A pause. Soft footsteps approached from inside. The door opened halfway. And there she was. Same eyes. Same stillness. Like time hadn't touched her, but something behind those eyes had. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. Neither should you, he replied. A flicker of something crossed her face. Not surprise. Recognition. She stepped aside without another word. Inside, the room was dim, lit only by a single lamp. Clean. Controlled. Just like her. You look tired, she said, closing the door behind him. Been a long night. They usually are with you. He exhaled slowly, pacing once before stopping. You heard anything? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she leaned against the wall, arms folded. About what? She asked. He gave a faint, humorless smile. Don't do that. A silence settled between them. Different from before. Not hostile. Heavy. You always come here when something's wrong, she said softly. I didn't come for comfort. No, she replied. You never do. That landed deeper than he expected. He looked at her properly now, searching for something beneath the surface. They're moving on me. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes did. Just slightly. How bad? She asked. 48 hours. That made her look away. Just for a second. Enough. You knew, he said quietly. She didn't deny it. That's why you're here, she replied. You already knew before you knocked. Then say it. She shook her head. It's not that simple. It never is with you. Another silence. Thicker this time. Then she stepped closer. You think this is just business? She asked. A random raid. It's not random. No, she said. It's not. Her voice lowered. You've been marked for a while. His jaw tightened. By who? She hesitated. That hesitation told him everything. Someone close, she said finally. I figured that out. No, she replied, meeting his eyes now. Closer than you think. The words hit differently. Not just suspicion anymore. Confirmation. He took a step toward her. Then why didn't you warn me? Her expression shifted, something real breaking through. Because you wouldn't have listened. That's not your choice to make. It never is with you, she shot back, her voice rising for the first time. You control everything. You decide what matters, who matters, until it's too late. The room felt smaller now, tighter with everything unsaid between them. You think I wanted this? She continued, quieter now. You think I wanted to be part of this? You already are, he said coldly. That hurt. He saw it. But she didn't step back. You're not the only one being watched, she said. You never were. A faint vibration broke the moment. Her phone. Both of them froze. She glanced down at it. And for the first time since he walked in, she looked afraid. "Who is it?" he asked. She didn't answer. The phone kept vibrating. Persistent. Deliberate. Slowly, she turned the screen toward herself. His eyes followed. No name. Just a number. But he didn't need a name. He saw her expression change. Understood it instantly. "They found you," he said quietly. She didn't deny it. Instead, she answered the call. Silence filled the room as she listened. Then, "Yes," she said softly. A pause. Her eyes flicked toward him. And in that moment, he realized something worse than betrayal. She wasn't just connected to them. She was already in too deep to walk away. When she ended the call, her hand trembled slightly. "What did they say?" he asked. She looked at him. And didn't answer. Because she didn't have to. The clock had just started ticking faster. The clock wasn't just ticking anymore. It was closing in. By the time he left her flat, the air outside felt sharper, colder. Not because of the weather, but because every second now carried weight. The call she answered confirmed what he already knew. This wasn't a threat waiting to happen. It had already begun. He moved fast, not reckless, but deliberate. There was no room for hesitation anymore. If they were tightening the net, then standing still meant getting caught in it. Retreat wasn't an option. Not for someone like him. Back at the garage, the space felt different. The same concrete walls, the same quiet hum, but now it carried suspicion in every corner. This wasn't a crew anymore. It was a battlefield. Dre was already there again, standing near the back entrance, arms folded. Watching. "You called us back quick," Dre said. "Plans changed," he replied. Malik arrived minutes later, slightly out of breath, like he had rushed, or like he had somewhere else to be before this. Kane came last. Of course. Always controlled. Always on time. Too perfect. "We don't wait anymore," he said, stepping into the center of the space. "They want movement, we give it to them." Malik frowned. "You serious? We don't even know where they're hitting from." "We don't need to," he replied. "We force them out." Dre nodded slightly. "How?" He pulled out his phone, bringing up a location. Old storage site. Dockside. Quiet, isolated, easy to control. Kane studied the screen. "And you think they'll come?" "They're already watching," he said. "We give them something worth reacting to." Malik shifted uneasily. "Feels like bait." "It is." Silence. Then Kane spoke. "And what if they don't take it?" "They will." The confidence in his voice wasn't forced. It was calculated. Because this wasn't just about drawing them out. It was about watching who reacted first. "We split," he continued. "Dre, you take the south entry. Malik, you stay mobile, eyes on the perimeter." "And you?" Malik asked. "I'll be inside." Kane tilted his head slightly. "Alone?" "For a while." Another pause. No one questioned it, but they all felt it. This wasn't just a plan. It was a test. "You trust this?" Malik asked, glancing between them. "No," he said plainly. "That's the point." The words settled heavy in the air. Trust was gone. Now it was about survival. They moved quickly after that. No wasted words. No unnecessary discussion. Weapons checked, routes memorized, timing locked in. Everything precise. Everything controlled. But underneath it all, something still didn't feel right. Too smooth. Too easy. As if the plan had already been seen before it even began. He noticed it in small things. Malik checking his phone more than usual. Dre watching exits instead of people. Kane staying quiet. Too quiet. Each detail alone meant nothing. Together, they meant everything. By the time night fell again, the city returned to its familiar darkness. But this time, it felt like the shadows were waiting. Watching. Just like before. They moved separately, exactly as planned. No direct contact. No patterns. Just motion. He reached the storage site first. The place was dead silent. Rusted metal doors, broken windows, the faint smell of damp concrete. Perfect for what needed to happen. Or what was about to happen. He stepped inside, scanning every angle, every shadow. His movements slow, controlled, ready. Waiting. Minutes passed. Then more. Nothing. Too quiet. His phone vibrated. A message. Unknown number. His chest tightened slightly as he looked at the screen. Not fear. Recognition. He opened it. One line. Simple. Precise. Nice location. We'll be there before you. His expression didn't change. But something inside him did. Because that wasn't a threat. That was confirmation. They already knew. Before anyone even arrived. Before the plan even moved into action. Which meant one thing. The leak wasn't just real. It was active. Right now. He slowly lifted his head, eyes scanning the empty building again. Only now. It didn't feel empty anymore. It felt watched. And somewhere out there, someone was already ahead of him. The message still echoed in his mind. We'll be there before you. He didn't move right away. Just stood there in the center of the storage site, listening. Not to noise, but to absence. No footsteps. No shifting metal. No distant engines. Nothing. Too perfect. Too staged. His instincts sharpened instantly. This wasn't a meeting point anymore. It was a trap already in motion. He stepped back slowly, adjusting his position without making a sound. Every movement controlled. Every breath measured. If they were watching, then he wouldn't give them the satisfaction of panic. Not yet. A faint creak broke the silence. Not from outside. Inside. His eyes snapped toward the far end of the building. Then, a door slammed open. Footsteps. Fast. Precise. More doors burst open in sequence, like a chain reaction. Left. Right. Behind. They weren't rushing blindly. They were locking it down. The raid had begun. No shouting. No warnings. Just movement. Shadows turned into figures. Masked, armed, disciplined. Guns raised, sweeping the space with trained precision. Not street chaos. Coordination. They knew exactly where to look. He moved instantly, slipping behind a steel pillar just as the first beam of a flashlight cut across the floor where he had been standing seconds ago. Too close. Clear the sides, a voice ordered quietly. Professional. Calm. This wasn't just intimidation. This was execution. He shifted again, staying low, using the structure to stay out of sight. His heart wasn't racing, he didn't allow it to. Panic made noise. And noise got you killed. Another set of footsteps approached from the rear exit. Cut off. They had sealed it. Every way out. Planned. His jaw tightened. They didn't just know the location. They knew the layout. That meant time. Preparation. Inside information. A shot rang out. Sharp. Controlled. Not wild firing, just a signal. He moved again, faster now, heading toward a narrow corridor between stacked crates. If he could reach the side exit, he might still. A figure stepped into view ahead. Gun raised. He ducked back instantly, pressing against the wall as another beam of light sliced through the space he had just abandoned. Too many. Too tight. They were herding him. Not chasing. Guiding. Forcing him exactly where they wanted. He clenched his fists slightly. They know my moves. That realization hit harder than the gunfire. This wasn't guesswork. This was tracking. Every decision he made, they were already one step ahead. A crash echoed behind him. Another entry point breached. They were closing the circle. He had one option left. Push through. He stepped out suddenly, fast, catching one of them off guard. The man barely had time to react before he was disarmed, shoved aside. Clean. Efficient. But it didn't matter. Two more appeared instantly, weapons trained. He ducked behind cover again as bullets struck metal, sparks flying. Still controlled. Still precise. They weren't trying to spray him down. They were controlling space. Controlling him. His breathing stayed steady, but his mind was moving faster than ever now. Someone is feeding them everything. Roots. Habits. Instincts. All of it. Another path. Left side. He moved quickly, slipping through a gap between containers, heading toward a secondary exit he had memorized long ago. 3 steps. 4. A figure dropped down from above, blocking the way. Gun already aimed. He froze. Not out of fear. Out of calculation. Too perfect. Too exact. They knew he would come this way. Which meant there was no next move they didn't already expect. The man in front of him didn't speak. Just stood there, steady, waiting. Behind him, more footsteps closed in. The circle complete. For the first time since this started. He stopped moving. Not trapped, but cornered by something far worse than numbers. Knowledge. A voice echoed from the shadows behind the man. End of the line. Calm. Familiar. Too familiar. His eyes narrowed slightly. The man in front of him stepped aside. Just enough. And that's when he saw him. Standing there. Weapon in hand. Face no longer hidden. No mask. No distance. Just truth. Cain. The silence hit harder than any gunshot. For a moment, neither of them moved. No chaos. No shouting. Just the weight of everything collapsing into a single point. You shouldn't have come, Cain said quietly. Not anger. Not regret. Just certainty. His grip tightened slightly, but his expression stayed controlled. You set this up. Cain didn't deny it. Didn't even hesitate. You forced it, he replied. A faint sound of movement echoed behind, others positioning, waiting for the signal. But none of it mattered anymore. Because the real ambush wasn't the raid. It was this moment. This face. This confirmation. Trust wasn't broken tonight. It had been broken long before. And all this, he said slowly, glancing around. Just to make a point. Cain stepped forward slightly, weapon still steady. No, he said. A pause. Then, to finish it. The distance between them felt smaller now. Tighter. Final. And as the silence stretched between 2 men who once stood side by side, one of them was already ready to pull the trigger. One of them was already ready to pull the trigger. The space between them felt charged, like the air itself was waiting to snap. No one else moved. The crew behind Cain held position, silent, disciplined, but watching. This wasn't their moment. This was personal. You always thought it would be someone weaker, Cain said, voice steady. Someone sloppy. Someone desperate. He didn't respond immediately. His eyes stayed locked on Cain, searching past the weapon, past the stance, looking for something familiar. Something human. I thought it wouldn't be you, he said finally. Cain exhaled lightly, almost amused. That's the problem. You never really saw me. I trusted you. No, Cain cut in sharply. You used me. The words landed harder than expected. A flicker of tension crossed his face, but it disappeared just as quickly. That's what this is, he asked. Hurt feelings. Cain's jaw tightened. You think this is small. I think you're making it smaller than it is. A step forward. Slow. Controlled. You built everything on control, Cain continued. Every move, every decision, it all had to go through you. You didn't have a crew. You had pieces. That's how you survive. No, Cain replied. That's how you stay on top. There's a difference. Silence pressed in again. Heavy. You could have walked away, he said. If you had a problem, you speak. Not this. Cain shook his head. Speak. And what? You listen. Adjust. Change. A bitter smile flickered across his face. You don't change. You replace. That one hit. Because it wasn't entirely wrong. You think this fixes anything? He asked, voice quieter now. You hand me over, you take my place, and suddenly you're in control. It's not about control, Cain said. Then what? A pause. Longer this time. Kane stepped closer, just enough for the truth to land without distance softening it. It's about respect, he said. A faint scoff escaped him. You had respect. No, Kane replied, sharper now. I had proximity. The difference hung in the air. Clear. Cutting. You made me stand next to you, Kane continued. But never equal. Never trusted with anything that mattered. You were trusted, he said, though his voice lacked the certainty it once had. With scraps, Kane shot back. With leftovers. While you kept everything real locked away. That's how leadership works. That's how control works, Kane corrected. Another step closer. Now they were just feet apart. Do you even remember that warehouse job? Kane asked. He stilled slightly. I hesitated, Kane continued. You saw it. You knew something was off. You said you saw someone. I did, Kane said. But not the way you think. A pause. Then. I saw how easy it would be. The words landed like a crack through glass. How easy what would be? He asked, quieter now. To take everything from you. Silence swallowed the space again. Behind them, the crew shifted slightly, but still no one interfered. This wasn't their conversation. It was a reckoning. You think they respect you? He said after a moment, nodding toward the men behind Kane. You're just another piece to them. Maybe, Kane replied. But at least I chose it. And this? He asked, gesturing around. This is your choice. Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. That certainty made it worse. This isn't about money, he said slowly. Kane didn't answer. Because he didn't need to. It never was. Money was just the excuse. This was resentment. Years of it. Built quietly. Patiently. Until it became something else entirely. You could have had everything, he said. All you had to do was wait. I'm done waiting. Another step. Now there was nothing between them but the decision neither had made yet. You're not built for this, he added quietly. Not like this. Kane's expression hardened. You don't get to decide that anymore. A beat. Then. You never did. The words settled like final judgment. No more arguments. No more explanations. Just truth. Raw. Unavoidable. His eyes flicked briefly to the weapon in Kane's hand, then back to his face. Then do it, he said. No fear. Just acceptance of what this had become. Kane's grip tightened. The tension snapped. And in the silence that followed, a gunshot exploded through the room. Sharp. Violent. Final. But in that single, chaotic moment, no one could tell who pulled the trigger first. The gunshot shattered the silence, but it didn't end anything. For a second, everything blurred. Movement. Shadows. The sharp echo still ringing through the concrete walls. Then the world snapped back into focus. He was on the ground. Not dead. But not in control either. Pain spread through his side, hot and immediate, forcing the air out of his lungs. His hand instinctively pressed against it, but before he could react further, boots closed in around him. Weapons pointed. Voices low. Disciplined. Don't move. He didn't. Not because he couldn't, but because he understood. This wasn't meant to end quickly. Kane stood a few steps away, breathing steady, weapon still in his hand. No panic. No rush. Just confirmation. You're still breathing, Kane said quietly. He let out a slow, strained breath. Disappointed. Kane didn't answer that. Instead, he stepped closer, looking down at him, not like an enemy, but like something already finished. Get him up. Hands grabbed him roughly, forcing him to his feet. The pain surged again, sharper now, but he stayed upright. Barely. No weakness. Not here. Not in front of them. They moved him deeper into the building, past the place where the confrontation had happened. Further in. Darker. More enclosed. Deliberate. A chair waited in the center of the space. Prepared. That told him everything. They sat him down, tying his hands tight behind his back. Not rushed. Not messy. Controlled. This wasn't punishment. It was a message. Kane circled slowly, like he was deciding how this should end. You know how this works, Kane said. He gave a faint, pained smile. You going to explain it anyway? A tax raid isn't just about money, Kane continued, ignoring him. It's about order. People need to understand what happens when they operate outside it. You mean outside you? Kane stopped in front of him. Outside control. There it was again. Control. The thing they both built their lives around, but never agreed on how to hold. You had everything, Kane said. And you made it unstable. He shook his head slightly. I made it mine. And now it's gone. Silence. Not empty, final. One of the crew stepped forward, placing something on the ground beside him. A bag. Not large, but heavy enough to mean something. Kane glanced at it briefly, then back at him. This is what you owe. He laughed once, weak but real. You think this settles it? It starts it. A pause. Then Kane leaned closer, lowering his voice. You don't just lose money, he said. You lose position. Identity. Power. Each word landed like a slow cut. You become an example. The crew shifted slightly behind him, watching. Not eager. Just present. Witnesses. His breathing slowed, despite the pain. His mind wasn't racing anymore. It was settling. Because now he understood. This wasn't about ending him. It was about erasing him. You had help, he said quietly. Kane's expression didn't change. More than just you, he continued. This was too clean. Still no response. But the silence confirmed it. You weren't the only one who wanted me gone. Kane straightened slightly. Does it matter now? It does, he said, meeting his eyes. Because you're not the one in charge. That landed. A flicker. Small. But real. The first crack. There's someone above you, he said, voice weaker now, but sharper. Someone you're answering to. Kane didn't speak. Didn't deny it. But didn't confirm it either. Which meant. He was right. A faint smile touched his lips, despite everything. You think you've taken my place, he whispered. You haven't even seen the top yet. The room felt tighter. Quieter. Something shifting beneath the surface. Kane's grip tightened slightly on his weapon. Last chance, Kane said. Say what you need to say. He exhaled slowly, eyes drifting for just a second, then locking back in. There's a name, he said. The words pulled attention instantly. Even the crew behind Kane leaned in, just slightly. Because names meant power. Names meant truth. He swallowed, forcing the pain down. They're the one who set this in motion, he continued. Not you. Not them. Kane stepped closer. Who? A breath. Slow. Final. His lips parted. And just as the first sound began to form, a shot rang out. Close. Precise. Silencing everything. The shot didn't just end a life. It echoed. Through the walls. Through the streets. Through every corner of the city that had once moved under his control. By morning, the silence was gone. Replaced by whispers. No names at first. Just fragments. A raid. A setup. Someone taken out. Then slowly, carefully, the truth began to surface. He was gone. And the streets felt it immediately. Corners that once operated with quiet precision now hesitated. Deals slowed. Eyes shifted. Nobody spoke too loud, but everyone was listening harder than ever. Because when someone like him disappeared, it didn't create peace. It created a vacuum. And vacuums pulled violence in. At the garage, the emptiness was louder than any argument that had ever happened there. The same space where loyalty once stood, now abandoned, like it had already been erased. Dre stood alone near the entrance, staring at the ground like it might give him answers. He hadn't said much since that night. Hadn't needed to. Because silence, now, was survival. Malik didn't come back. No calls. No messages. Just gone. Some said he ran. Others said he didn't get the chance. Either way, his absence spoke louder than any explanation. And Kane had stepped forward. Not loudly. Not aggressively. But clearly. He didn't announce control. He didn't need to. People saw what happened. Understood it. And adjusted. That's how power worked now. Not claimed. Recognized. Still, something felt off. Even for him. The crew that stood behind Kane wasn't celebrating. There were no victories being marked, no loud statements made. Just movement. Quiet. Controlled. Like they were waiting for something else. Because this wasn't the end. Not really. The story had changed, but it hadn't closed. Across the city, word spread in different versions. Some said it was a tax raid gone right. Others said it was an inside job from the beginning. But one detail stayed consistent. It had been too clean. Too perfect. And that made people nervous. Because clean jobs meant planning. Planning meant structure. And structure meant someone bigger was involved. Someone unseen. Kane stood at the same storage site later that night, staring at the spot where it all ended. The building was empty again, stripped of movement, stripped of noise. But not of memory. You hesitated, a voice said from behind him. He didn't turn immediately. I didn't, Kane replied. A soft step echoed closer. You let him talk too long. Now Kane turned. The man standing behind him wasn't part of the crew from before. Different presence. Different weight. Not louder. Just higher. He wasn't going anywhere, Kane said. That's not the point. A pause. Then the man stepped closer, eyes scanning the space like he already knew every detail of what had happened. He mentioned a name, the man said. Kane's expression stayed controlled. He didn't finish it. But he was going to. Silence stretched between them. Not tense. Measured. You're in position now, the man continued. Which means you don't get second chances. I understand. I don't think you do, the man replied calmly. Because if he knew anything real. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Kane's jaw tightened slightly. Loose ends don't stay quiet, the man added. A faint tension crept into the air. Neither do mistakes. The words settled deep. Heavy. Final. And for the first time since the ambush, Kane didn't look in control. Back in the city, something else was moving. Quietly. Carefully. A file reopened. An old case. One that had been buried, overlooked, forgotten. Until now. Because the name that almost got spoken was already written somewhere else. Waiting to be found. Waiting to be found. The file hadn't been touched in months. Buried beneath routine reports and forgotten leads, it had once been dismissed as just another dead end, another name lost in a city full of them. Until now. Detective Harris flipped it open again, slower this time. Not out of uncertainty, but because something about it no longer felt finished. Why this one? His partner asked, leaning against the desk. Harris didn't look up immediately. His eyes traced the old notes, the connections that once seemed thin, but now felt deliberate. Because it lines up too clean, he said. Clean how? Harris tapped the page lightly. Timing. Locations. Names that almost overlap, but never quite touch. His partner frowned. You think it's connected to the recent hit? I don't think, Harris replied. I see patterns. That was always his strength. Not chasing noise, but following silence. The execution had been precise. Too precise for something purely street level. No witnesses willing to talk. No cameras catching anything useful. No panic in the aftermath. Just order. That didn't happen without structure. Harris turned another page, revealing an older incident. A warehouse job that had gone wrong months ago. At the time, it looked isolated, bad intel, messy escape. Now it looked different. They were being tested, Harris murmured. Who was? The crew, he said. Someone was watching how they handled pressure. Who broke? Who adapted? His partner straightened slightly. You're saying this goes higher? Harris didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for another file. Newer. Fresh. The execution report. Photos clipped neatly inside. Locations marked. Timelines aligned. Everything matched too well. They knew his movements, Harris said. Not just where he'd be, but how he'd react. Inside job, his partner said. More than that. Harris slid the two files side by side. This wasn't just betrayal, he continued. It was orchestration. A pause. Then, someone set the stage, placed the players, and let it play out. His partner crossed his arms. For what? Money. Harris shook his head. No. Control. The word lingered. Heavy. Familiar. They let him build power, Harris said. Let the crew grow. Let the cracks form naturally. And then they pulled it apart. Silence settled over the room as the weight of that idea sank in. This wasn't just about removing him, Harris added. It was about replacing him. With Kane, his partner said. Harris nodded slowly. Exactly. Another page turned. Another detail uncovered. Phone records. Not direct calls, too careful for that. But patterns. Numbers that appeared near key moments, then vanished. Untraceable at first glance. But not invisible. These numbers, Harris said, pointing. They don't belong to the crew. Burners. Maybe, Harris replied. But they show up too consistently. His partner leaned closer. So who are they? Harris stared at the page, something clicking into place. They're not part of the crew, he said slowly. They're above it. The realization shifted everything. Not just a gang conflict. Not just betrayal. Something structured. Layered. Hidden. Harris pulled out one final sheet, an internal note that had been overlooked before. A name mentioned briefly, then dismissed due to lack of evidence. At the time, it meant nothing. Now, it meant everything. His partner noticed the change in his expression. What is it? Harris didn't answer immediately. He just stared at the name. Long enough for it to settle. Heavy enough to matter. This isn't over, he said quietly. Who is it? His partner pressed. Harris closed the file slowly. Someone who doesn't appear in reports, he replied. Someone who doesn't get seen. A pause. Then, someone who makes sure others take the fall. The room felt colder now. Sharper. Because the deeper they looked, the less this felt like a case. And more like a system. One designed to stay hidden. But not anymore. Because now, they knew where to look next. They knew where to look next. But on the streets, the truth was already moving faster than any investigation. Kane felt it before he understood it. The shift. Subtle, but real. People weren't just watching him with respect anymore. There was hesitation now. Distance. The kind that came when power didn't feel stable, when it felt borrowed. He stood inside a dimly lit room, the same calm posture, the same controlled expression, but something underneath it had changed. He wasn't leading. He was maintaining. Waiting. The door opened behind him. He didn't turn immediately. He didn't need to. You've been busy, the voice said. Kane exhaled slowly. It's handled. Footsteps moved closer. Measured. Confident. Not rushed, not cautious. Certain. That's what you think, the man replied. Now Kane turned. Same man from the storage site. Same presence. But now, there was no distance left to hide behind. You said no loose ends, Kane said. He's gone. And yet, the man replied calmly, his name is still being spoken. A pause. Kane's jaw tightened slightly. People talk. People repeat, the man corrected. Talking becomes dangerous when it turns into truth. Silence. The kind that carried consequences. You hesitated, the man continued. I didn't. You let him breathe longer than necessary. That didn't change the outcome. No, the man said. but it changed the risk. The words landed deeper than before. Because this wasn't about the past anymore. It was about control. And control didn't allow cracks. You wanted position, the man went on. You have it now. Kane didn't respond. You wanted respect. Still silence. The man stepped closer. Now you understand the cost. That made Kane look at him. Really look. Control isn't given, the man said quietly. It's enforced. Maintained. Protected at all times. And if it slips? Kane asked. The man's expression didn't change. It doesn't. That answer said everything. This wasn't leadership. It was domination. Built on fear. Sustained through silence. And him? Kane asked after a moment. He wasn't the top. No, the man replied. Then who is? A faint pause. Not hesitation. Calculation. You're asking questions you don't need answers to. Kane held his gaze. I need to know what I'm part of. The man studied him for a second longer. Then, you're part of a structure that existed before him, he said. Before you. And it will exist after. The words felt final. Heavy. Not something that could be challenged. You were chosen because you understood the streets, the man continued. Because you could replace him. Kane's expression hardened. Replace. Not lead. The man didn't deny it. Because he didn't need to. That truth was already clear. You don't run this, the man said. You hold it. A pause. Until someone else is ready. The meaning settled in slowly. Cold. Precise. Kane wasn't the top. He was the next layer. Another piece. Just like before. The realization didn't break him. But it changed something. You used all of us, Kane said quietly. Yes. No denial. No apology. Just truth. Why? The man's answer came without hesitation. Because fear builds faster than loyalty. Silence followed. Because that was the Betrayal foundation. Not trust. Not respect. Fear. And fear didn't question. It obeyed. Across the city, the pressure was building again. Dre had gone quiet. Malik was still missing. And whispers were shifting into something sharper. Something closer to truth. Which made it dangerous. Back in the room, the man stepped away slightly, reaching into his coat. This isn't finished, he said. Kane didn't move. Didn't speak. The man pulled out a phone, placing it on the table between them. A single message already prepared. No names. No details. Just an order. Kane looked at it. Understood it instantly. Final. Clean. Necessary. Loose ends don't stay quiet, the man said again. Then, make sure they don't get the chance. Kane's hand hovered over the phone. For a moment. Just a moment. There was hesitation. Not fear. Not doubt. Something else. Then it was gone. He picked it up. And read the instruction again. Because this time, the target wasn't just one person. It was everyone who knew too much. It was everyone who knew too much. The message didn't need names. It didn't need details. The meaning was clear enough. Erase what's left. The city felt it before it happened. A shift in rhythm. Conversations cut short. Phones going silent mid-call. Doors locking earlier than usual. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from peace, but from expectation. Something was coming. And no one wanted to be in its path. Dre was the first to understand. He had stayed low, avoided the usual places, kept his movements unpredictable. But even that didn't feel like enough anymore. Not after everything he had seen. Not after the way it ended. He stood in a narrow flat, staring at a packed bag he hadn't touched. Running was an option. But it came with a cost. Because running meant admitting one thing. You were already marked. A knock hit the door. Soft. Controlled. Not rushed. Dre didn't move at first. Then it came again. He stepped closer slowly, every instinct telling him this wasn't a visit. It was a decision. Who is it? He asked. Silence. Then, open the door. He knew the voice. Kane. Dre closed his eyes briefly. Not fear. Recognition. When he opened the door, Kane stood there alone. No crew. No weapons visible. But none of that mattered. You came yourself, Dre said. I had to, Kane replied. A pause stretched between them, heavy with everything unspoken. You're cleaning it up, Dre said. Yes. No lies. No excuses. Dre nodded slowly. And I'm part of it. Yes. Again, no hesitation. The honesty made it worse. You ever think about stopping? Dre asked quietly. Kane didn't answer immediately. Because the question wasn't simple. I thought about surviving, he said finally. Dre gave a faint, tired smile. Same thing, right? No, Kane replied. Not anymore. Silence settled. Final. Dre stepped back, opening the door wider. Then do it, he said. No resistance. No fight. Because he understood something Kane had only just learned. There was no way out. Only different endings. The sound came quick. Clean. And just like that, another piece was gone. Across the city, it didn't stop there. One by one, the remaining threads were cut. Malik's disappearance made sense now. He hadn't run. He had been erased early. Others followed. Quietly. Efficiently. Like they had never existed. By the time the streets realized what was happening, it was already over. Too late to react. Too late to resist. Only one thing remained. Control. Back at the station, Detective Harris stood over the same files, now thicker, heavier with connections that could no longer be ignored. They're cleaning house, his partner said. I know, Harris replied. But we still don't have enough to take it down. Harris didn't answer. Because that was the truth. They had pieces. But not the structure. Not the top. And without that, justice stayed incomplete. He looked down at the notes again. The names. The movements. The patterns. And something finally clicked. Not one betrayal. Not one leak. Multiple. Placed carefully. Over time. Different people. Different moments. All feeding into the same outcome. They didn't just turn on him, Harris said slowly. They built the fall. His partner frowned. You're saying this was planned from the start? Harris nodded. From the moment he started rising. The realization settled deep. Cold. Calculated. This wasn't a collapse. It was a design. Back on the streets, nothing looked different. Same corners. Same silence. Same movement in the shadows. But the power had shifted. Kane stood where someone else once did. Not at the top. Just closer to it. And above him. Still unseen. Still untouched. Watching. Waiting. Because the system didn't end. It evolved. And in that world, no one walked away clean.